Ever since I was a young lad, understanding how the world worked was very important. So I was constantly taking things apart. I finally have the money and the wherewithal to do these things I wanted to do in junior high, but couldn't. So we have this little place in a small rustic community, and we typically try and escape over there nearly every weekend. So the 4th of July weekend came, and we brought our kids, and we decided, hey, let's take a quad ride, because we went out on the trail, and that's when I got a little too aggressive. And that was when the quad accident happened.
We almost every week are brought to a situation where we have to tell a patient and a family that there's nothing more we can do to change what's happened. That could be a stroke where they're unable to move one side. That could be a spinal cord injury from a car accident where they can't move their legs and they're paralyzed. It's tough when you have to come in front of somebody and tell them there's not much hope. That's what this is about. The Spinal Cord Research Program is a program that we've just begun to do. This program is about immediate rehabilitation with an exoskeleton. The second is an anatomy project to understand the spinal cord more effectively. And 3 is to actually look at the anatomy and understand the disease process in common diseases. With all this, we hope to develop new therapeutic opportunities so we can take people who would not walk and get them moving again.
The spinal cord is sort of like the American West was. It's an area that's been unexplored, and the potential that it has to offer is really awaiting discovery.
We have a great opportunity, and I think the opportunity is going to have an extension well beyond the walls of Swedish.
My entire career has been focused on coming up with good research, anatomical research that has immediate patient application. This is the biggest challenge that I've ever confronted. One reason that I decided to move to Swedish is that on the way back from my interview, my wife and I looked at each other, and we were, conflicted on what to do. Great opportunity, but our home's in Alabama. And she said, you know what, I think there's something special here that will allow you to do a greater good than you could back home. And I agreed with her and said, the spinal cord 3D Atlas is something that's right up my alley. It'll let me focus all of my energy on something that's never been thought of as being a possibility in the past and make it happen. We're at a juncture here in medicine and technology that almost borders on science fiction. I think I can take what used to be science fiction, create this roadmap, and then that will allow the clinicians to take patients that are paralyzed or have debilitating spinal cord injuries and give them hope that, walking again is not science fiction. It's something that we're engaged with and ready to take on full steam ahead.
I remember waking up out of the surgery. When things settle down, you have a lot of time to think and reflect. And part of that reflection was all the things I took for granted. It also struck me that when they put me back together, when they put the spine back together and encased it, they did a phenomenal job on the bones and the structure and the mechanics of my back. But when it came to the electronic signals, the conduit that was going down my back, the spinal column, they had to just treat it gingerly, very carefully, and that was all they could do at this point. As this process was going on and I was learning at what Swedish had done and what they were thinking of doing, it made complete sense. If they had a way of knowing the components of the spine and then formulating treatments that could reconnect nerves or cause the nerves to grow more quickly and replace the current sort of holistic techniques, it could be amazing. Quite frankly, I feel like I'm the luckiest guy on the planet. I've got a wonderful family, had wonderful care at Swedish, and within 2.5 months, I'm up and walking again with the prognosis that I'll be running and playing with my grandchildren. As I see these other people that maybe don't have such a good prognosis, I can only imagine what's going through their mind with the fear that you feel when you're about to lose something you've taken for granted.
80% of my patients, their goal is to be able to walk again. And even just take a few steps is really meaningful for people who haven't been able to walk. For those patients that I have that aren't walking and haven't walked for a long time, and I've thought, well, you need a wheelchair. And with this project, I've seen patients who hadn't even walked for a year be able to get up in the exoskeleton, and after the training, be able to stand up and walk. And this is walking not with the device, but it's being able to walk without a device, which is super exciting.
That's what patients want to hear about. And some of my patients ask me every single time they come in, what's going on the research side? And it's nice to have some answers that, well, we're working on this, and we're working on understanding the disease within the spinal cord, and we're working on developing therapies that will be more targeted. If I was a patient, I would want to have that answer, and I would want to know that others are trying to really understand my disease.
Really wouldn't be nearly as powerful if it was just one of those disciplines trying to pull this off. It really does take a multidisciplinary approach, and luckily we have all of those resources together within the Neuroscience Institute, working synergistically to do studies just like this. It's amazing how much we've done in the last few years, but I don't think you've seen anything yet. I think it's actually, we're on the cusp of seeing many, many more breakthroughs for treatment of neurologic disease.
To do that requires a tremendous amount of effort, it requires a tremendous amount of focused attention, and it requires a tremendous amount of infrastructure. We believe that this is a worthy cause, and we have the right people here, the right clinical staff to make this happen.
Now's the time that I think we can take something that was unbelievable and take those wheelchairs and put them in the closet. The technology, robotics, stem cells, the anatomy, three-dimensional atlas that we're envisioning, all that combined is powerful enough that we shouldn't put our head in the sand anymore and think that this is something that's not achievable.
It's an incredible time to be alive. The people who have donated in the past, thank you. It was because of your donations that I'm probably able to walk today. And for those of you that are donating today, there are going to be hundreds of people like me that are thanking you in a few years.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do something that no one else has done and become part of history. Arm in arm, we'll go forward and make patients have a better life, have a better outcome, and do that through your kind and generous donations.